Welcome to the JD Levy and Associates Calibration Point podcast. Our podcasts are designed to bring a conversational exploration of key topics that we believe will provide value and insight to those serving in the nonprofit sector. We will highlight new developments in the field, latest research, and things we're learning from our own clients that we can share. If there are topics that you would like to see explored, please send them to us through our website at jdlevyassociates.com.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank you for joining in the Calibration Point podcast. This month, we have a guest with us, Sarah Downing, who is JD Levy and Associates Director of Philanthropic Sustainability. And Sarah is going to explore an interesting topic with us, one that I really like and that I'm not always the best at, and that is, how do you use research or data or information to create impactful visuals that can engage our donors, tell our story, engage our partners to better understand our organization. And Sarah has a lot of depth and expertise in this arena and does amazing stuff for our clients and within JDLA. And who better to have on to come in and talk to us about creating impact with visuals. So Sarah, thank you for joining us. And maybe just talk to us a little bit to start. Like, what does that mean? How do you think about impact with visuals? How should an organization think about this topic? Take us on this journey.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. We're working a lot with our nonprofits clients, and we focus on helping them share their story and to share impact and talk to their donors in a very engaging, donor-centric way. And pages upon pages of text doesn't convey what we want it to. And donors will read, they read documents, they'll read appeal letters, but to tell them all the things we want to say, a 12-page case statement, it's just too much. And there's so many fun and creative things that we can do to share our story and to show images. Right now, there are so many free and low-cost softwares, tools that nonprofits can be using to create visuals, infographics, video. I mean, you name it. I think creativity, that's your only limit. I love it. This is an area that I really like. And I think you really can share more of your culture and your just identity and your passions with your donors so much better with the images.
So you said a keyword early on, and before we get into depth on how you would do this or how we should think about it, you mentioned a term that we use a lot, and I just want to be sure that we calibrate our audience around it, and that is this term donor-centric. Unpack that a little bit for us, because it's become a buzzword. We've talked about being donor-centric for 21 years. But in the last couple of years, it's become quite the buzzword, right? And people are talking about this term a lot. When we use that word, what does that mean?
Donor-centric is communicating with your donor so they feel like they are on the inside, that they are an active and vital part of what is going on. That the opposite of being on the outside looking into what the organization is doing. So how we do that is, instead of talking about our organization, we talk about our donors. We talk about what their giving is accomplishing, not what the organization's doing. Yes, those things are going to look the same, like very similar. I mean, we're talking about the same outcomes, but you're giving the donor the credit for that. They are the hero of your story, and they feel like they really belong.
So instead of being on the front porch looking in, they're sitting at our dining table with us.
Exactly.
Okay, great. I like that. So what do we do with wanting to create impact? So, I'm an organization, and I would love to learn more about this. I want to create impact with visuals. Where do I go? What do I do? How do I start? Tell us about that.
I think a great place to start is check out free low-cost software like Canva. Here at JDLA, we use PictoChart. And inventory what content you already have. I guarantee you've got some good shareable content that you can pull out and begin putting into images. So with these softwares, you can upload an image and write a little text on it, or put your logo on there, pull out a quote from a report, and make that font look interesting. You've got a social media post. It doesn't have to be overly sophisticated or complicated.
So when we use this term visuals, are we thinking, and you mentioned infographics earlier, which, that for those who are wondering, what is kind of like a one-page document that takes a couple of statistics and paints a picture about them and translates them in a very visual way so that we can connect quickly to data that might seem overwhelming otherwise, or maybe not resonate. Does this include video?
Video is great visual content that can, again, be integrated into your communications. And there are softwares that make that really easy. You can upload pictures or video, overlay music, text, and you've got a wonderful video you could show to your donors, have on your website, allow them to access through your social media.
You and I have talked about a lot. You just mentioned it, some of these low-cost software platforms that let you translate video. There are many we've seen, and we have clients that have used them that also do the same thing on the thank you end, where you can create a video thank you that's really quick and pop it into an email. Or I would say, especially with COVID, we saw the increase of a lot of our clients who were using simple platforms like Vimeo or even Wistia. It's Wistia, I believe it is. And to just go into their neighborhoods and do quick videos and just share with their donors what was going on, since they weren't able to have people come on site and see their impact. With those, if you think about the video and we think about infographics, how do I navigate what direction to go? Like, how do I know if I'm an executive director of a smaller organization or a development person? I guess the question is, do we have evidence that shows that this is important? And then secondarily, there are some platforms, I could get Canva. I could look at, I think it's Gratitude is one of the video thank you platforms. Or I could look at Wistia, Vimeo. So I figure out some of these platforms. I guess Facebook has a video function to it. How do I, now, and you've said inventory my information. So do I have good quotes? Do I have stats? Do I have a couple stories I could use? So let's say that I've done that. One, how do I know that's going to be effective? How do I build the case inside my organization that I should be spending my time doing this? And then secondarily, how do I start to create this picture, no pun intended, of that information?
The images, the infographics, any of the visuals that you're wanting to share or thinking about sharing, they should complement what you're already doing. So they should be a part of your holistic communication strategy. That's why I said inventory what you already have. You don't have to create a whole new siloed, strategy or information to have on your socials. What are you already sharing in your newsletter? What are you sharing via emails? Can you take something from that and translate it into an image? Any way that you can creatively share information. There's a lot of benefit to using visuals. They help us remember, they draw our attention, they're more engaging. So I think it's great to have a good mix of content and start there with a mix. And then you constantly want to be evaluating what's the result of the things you're sharing. Like, are you seeing increased likes and shares when you post behind the scenes video? Or if you just create a list or an infographic, are those being shared? Is it gaining traction? So not your donors are going to be, specific to you. They're their own, and we want to learn from them. We want to learn what kind of content they're liking and they're engaging with, and then we can refine our strategy as we go.
Is there research that's out there that gives us some understanding of the impact of visuals from a perspective of donor response or anything like that?
Yes, interestingly, there was a study that found 57% of people who watch a nonprofit video or online are likely to donate after seeing it. 57%.
Wow.
Huge.
Wow. Yeah.
Huge. And let
me ask a question about that.
Yeah.
Does that, I'm assuming that would have been an audience that had some linkage or interest within the organization?
I would think so.
I would think so too. Okay. So 57% responded in a gift after watching a video from the organization online.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And good content can generate up to 94% more views than text alone. So if your content is shared more widely, more people are seeing it, you're increasing the likelihood someone will give.
Yeah, that's impressive. Just those two alone, if I can have something that stimulates people to take action, and then also just know that they're going to view more if I have a visual, and a visual that translates really well and doesn't overwhelm them with text. Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah. And our visuals also make our communications more memorable. We will remember an image longer than we will just text.
Okay.
And images, you've all heard the expressions, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Right.
Pictures, compelling, good content, they convey so much more than what we could put into text. So when we are asking a donor to help a person or a child or, the environment, save an elephant, whatever it is, having a picture of that helps with that emotional connection to the need to give and to help. You're putting a face or an image with that ask, and it makes it even stronger and more memorable.
So I have to ask the question that I get in the field a lot, and I know you do as well. And the question goes kind of like this. So I want to create good visuals, and I'm on board with that. And I want to create short videos that people can engage with. Is there a point that I can over dramatize using too much video or too much visual that causes the opposite reaction?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can get to a point that if there's not a good mix, you become lost in it. Like I tell our clients when we're writing a letter, if we bold everything in that letter, well, it's like you bolded nothing at all, right?
Right.
So I like the idea of having shareable content and content that is complementing what you're having. So if you have a video, how can you translate something out of that into an infographic, or what is maybe it's worth having a little write up in text to share via email. So I think always being creative and being able to look at things not just through one lens, but for many facets.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So do you have a roadmap or kind of a pathway that you guide clients in, a simple way to say, hey, at least remember, here are the points that you need to cover or be thinking about as you go deeper? We talked about figuring out a platform. We talked about creating an inventory of our information that we believe is shareable. Do you have kind of are there some steps that you take people through or you recommend that they follow?
Good question. So we really want to meet our clients where they are at. So I would ask them to, look at their fundraising plan, their communications, what do they already have scheduled, what's in place, and then what other channels can we consider, digital channels, sending that message. And then from there, building upon that very cohesively. Again, it's going to be the same type of content, just putting it in other channels. I think that's a great place to start, is expanding your reach with maybe your socials, or, following up a mailing with an email, taking some of that content and putting it on your blog, whatever it may be, but just having a more holistic strategy, comprehensive approach to what you're already doing.
And that's a good point. The research shows on direct mail that about 50% of responses to direct mail appeals come in other channels, not through the direct mail channel, that it actually ends up triggering other responses. And to your point, we have to be sure that we're creating good synergy and good translation in all those channels, and that they're working together. It's an excellent point.
Yes. And you're also creating repetition. You're getting your message out there, which helps your donors to hear it. And the more messages you send, the more likely they are to receive it and hear it. So, I always tell our clients, don't be afraid to be repetitive. Your donors need to hear that from you. Keep sending your messages out there. They're not going to get all of them that you receive, but you want them to hear enough that they're informed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, we talk about this a lot internally, as you know, and one of the questions that come up to us, as we're working with clients, and something that you and I are actually starting to research and track data on nationally through our clients, is the question of how many touches. And, the first reaction often is from, it's the board member or it's a staff member who says, well, we can't send out 30 touches a year. I'll throw stuff away if I get that. But you and I know, and the research shows, that the average person who's receiving 30 touches a year has no clue they're receiving 30 touches a year. They might think they're getting like 10. It's so important that we don't think for the donor, but we use, just as you're talking here, good data to make informed decisions.
Yes, exactly. We want to be looking on the back end, evaluating that. And, with appeals, there's always the question of how many times a year can we ask until there's not a return on your investment. That's the ceiling. And I think for, most of our clients, I don't even know of anyone that I could say is probably asking too much. If you're making good asks, you can keep asking throughout the year. Evaluate it. Are your donors responding? As long as they are, you're doing the right thing.
And the research is out there from, applied research, Cone study. All of them show that donors undergive and organizations under-invite. Donors want to give more. They just want to be invited in really meaningful ways. Yeah. So, Sarah, do you have any tips to close this out with?
I would say if you're going to get started, you're going to be sharing content. Make it easy. We talk about donor care. We love our donors. Like you said, they're busy people, but they want to do good. Make it easy for them to access and to read and engage with what you're sending to them. But keep the donor in mind. Again, that donor-centric approach to what you're doing. And have fun with this. Like, if you're a creative type, this is really fun. If you're not the creative type, find somebody on your team that can move this forward for you. But again, it doesn't have to be overly difficult. Start small where you can and have some fun with this.
And you talk about slowing the scroll, and tell me a little bit about what does that mean? So
interestingly, when we think about just thumbing through social media, how fast are we going? So the average look at the scroll is 1.7 seconds.
Wow.
So if your content is not eye-catching and engaging, it's going to get passed by. And so I encourage our organizations to slow the scroll by having some really good images that will catch your donor's eye, hold their gaze a little bit longer, give you a few more seconds to convey to them the message you want them to receive.
It's a really interesting point, and it just makes me think about just yesterday, I was looking through stock photos for a project, and there were probably 600 photos. And I was like, how am I going to go through these? And literally all I did was I started at the top of the page and I scrolled down and ended up with 13 that actually like stopped me. That as I was going down this, this kind of collage of pictures, which one actually stopped my scroll and it made me pay attention to it. And those are the ones that I saved. So that's a really good point. Slow the scroll. I think that's a great motto that we should have in how we are translating anything to a donor-centric perspective. Slow the scroll.
Yeah.
Sarah, we really appreciate your being on with us today. And I think, maybe that's a good tagline for this podcast is slow the scroll. It sounds really good. And so thank you just for helping us think about how to create impact with visuals, how to help information to paint a story. And, this is an area that is often, I think, appears daunting. And, to your point in the very beginning of our time together, there's just a lot of easy ways to approach this. I think we just have to make the decision that we're going to spend some time in it, which is often the hardest decision we make, is to actually dedicate the time. And that's tough.
Always deciding when, where, and how much we're going to invest.
Absolutely. Well, Sarah, we really appreciate your time and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the JD Levy & Associates Calibration Point podcast. If you have comments or ideas for future episodes, please reach out using the contact page on our website, jdlevyassociates.com.